Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to our Adult Select Committee meeting, and I hope you've all been enjoying the lovely weather we've had over the last few weeks there, and hopefully you'll enjoy the next 6 or 7 weeks. The children are off school, so I know grandparents and parents will be pulling their hair out at the moment. Right, good morning everyone, and we've got the yearly summary of the council's portfolio here for Julie and lead officers for Eve. We'll start off with any apologies for absence. Hazel, please.
I don't, Chair, no.
Okay, thank you everyone. And agenda item with Julie and Eve. But firstly, could I just say that on behalf of myself and the council, thank Julie for her time with us. You've been here a long time, Julie, and you've gone through the ups and downs of what we've all gone through in the last 18 months. Not been a difficult time, but I do know you from years back where you've come through, and the same accent as me. I always noticed when you were speaking there, so Julie Boothroyd's in the room here, because I could always tell your accent from a Yorkshire lass. I think you're a Yorkshire girl, aren't you? So is it Todmorden? Was it Todmorden you were from? That area?
Huddersfield.
Huddersfield. Oh, I'm not far off then, just down the valley. But we do thank you for your time, and I know the members want to say a few kind words to you, and we wish you well on your travels of where you're going to go next and what you're going to do. And we wish you well and your family as well, and hopefully we'll see you around the place. So last time we'll meet on this forum. So wish you well, Julie, and thank you for everything you've done for the council and people of Monmouthshire. Okay.
Thank you, Simon. That's very kind. Thank you.
That's okay. You deserve it. Have any members as well who'd just like to say a few words? Yep, there you go. Their hands are up. So I'll start off with Ruth, Roger, Sheila, Maureen. There you go. Roger, Ruth. Ruth.
Me next, or
this
or
technology, Ruth? Still gets me. Well, thank you and good morning, everyone. I'm so sad to see Julie going, because I've known her for a long time. She's been a magnificent officer, because with any social care and so on, when people are involved, it is a very trying and very difficult time. Sometimes there's no easy answers to it, but Julie has always come up trumps. They've been innovative in such a lot of different schemes that they've done. And Julie's always been approachable, even if you met her on the stairs or something in County Hall. She always had time for you. She was always a great help. And I think she's going to be a great loss. But I'm sure somebody will come into her shoes. But they're going to have a very hard act to follow. So I wish you well in your future, Julie, and it's been wonderful knowing you. Thank you very much indeed for all your very hard work. Sorry, I'm very croaky. I've had a virus, but it's not the virus, but I'm suffering from a virus. Anyway, thank you. But I do wish you and your family well. Thank you.
Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Roger.
Thanks, Chair. I agree with absolutely everything that Ruth has just said, and I've known you for a long time as well, Julie. And as years have progressed, I've been crossing my fingers that sooner or later you get the job that you did get, and I can't be more delighted in the fact that you did get it in the end. I'm only sad that you're ditching us now, but there we are. I just hope to bump into you occasionally socially, and just enjoy whatever you're going to do next. And thanks for all that you've done for us. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Rog. Sheila.
Thank you. And Julie, yes, we are going to miss you. Thank you so much. I just endorse everything that's been said, but my particular memories of you will be at the long service events, when you sort of gave us a little bit of insight as to some of the earlier days of your career. But it's a vocation. You've done a fantastic job, and I just wanted to wish you well for the future.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila. Maureen.
Thanks, Chairman. Julie, I haven't known you quite as long as Roger and Ruth. I didn't come on the scene until 2008, but that's still quite a long time. And I've always felt that you were there and you were solid and we knew exactly we could rely upon you. And we're going to miss you very much, but I want to wish you all the best in the future. And never know, we might meet somewhere. At the moment with COVID, it's difficult to meet anybody anyway, but let's hope that sometime in the future we will. And I wish you all the best and thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you, Maureen. Have anybody else would just like to show Louise?
Yes, I'd just like to, I won't repeat everything that everybody else has said, but certainly agree with it. And I've probably been around less time than everybody else, but do appreciate your work. And I think most of all, I appreciate the fact that you're a chief officer, but I think one of the most important assets that you actually have is, you know, caring for the residents and caring for the people that social services look after. And I do think that possibly as people get to the higher ranks, they become more distant from that, and you never have. And I think that's one of your most important qualities, actually. And thank you very much for all your time. Wish you well in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Louise.
Hi, Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Julie, just to say that I've always been impressed by your humanity, the way you deal with people, the commitment to your work, your job and your colleagues. May I wish you every blessing. I've not known you that long. I've only been on the council for 4 years, but what I've seen, I've been delighted with, and I just thank you for all you've done. So every blessing in your future. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you, Malcolm. Have anybody else?
Please no, please no.
No. Julie, a good old saying is you can take the Yorkshire out the last, but you can't take the last out of Yorkshire. Am I right in saying that?
So you're absolutely right in saying that, indeed.
Anyway, thank you, Julie, and wish you well on your travels and wherever you go next. All right.
Lovely, thank you. Can I just say thank you to the Adult Select Committee members who, you know, I have a very fond affection for. I mean, obviously, there's a number of members who've been around for quite some time when I was head of service, as well as Ruth and others have alluded to. And thank you for your kind words. This is not your last opportunity to see me, obviously, because I'm going to be taking this, it won't be this report, it'll be the full report into council on the 23rd of September, which happens to be my last day. So that's going to be my grand finale. But thank you for your very kind words. It's been a pleasure working with you. And I particularly, the comments about humanity and, you know, really caring about the people, those are the comments that that feel, you know, they are me. So thank you for that.
No problem. Well done. Thank you. Right. Now we get into the report then, Julie, or we get into
Simon, sorry, Chair, just to say, I on the agenda, I think it was the corporate plan first. I'm more than happy to go first if Emma is happy for me to do that, but I think I was the other way around. But
okay,
it doesn't make any difference to me, whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah, we'll to take it as the agenda, then just my fault, just running
No,
ahead.
no, it's fine. I just, poor Emma, sorry, Emma.
Carry on, Emma, then take us through the plan.
Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you all. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
This report in front of you today is to provide an update, an annual update on progress made during 2020-21 on the corporate plan Goal D, lifelong wellbeing, to ensure members have an understanding of council performance and can scrutinise how well the authority has performed. As I'm sure you'll all be aware, the corporate plan is a 5-year programme that is aligned to a clear purpose of building sustainable and resilient communities. It identifies 5 priority goals, which also serve as the council's wellbeing objectives. And under each goal are a set of commitments to action, 22 in total, which the organisation is committed to delivering between now and the end of the plan, which is 2022. As you can see, the report has 2 appendices. The first shows our performance management framework, which illustrates how the various strands fit together in our performance reporting. As such, a lot of the information in this report will probably be familiar to you, having already been through the scrutiny process throughout the year. Appendix 2 provides a summary of activity and progress made during 2020-21 against the goal in the corporate plan that falls most closely under the remit of this committee, like I say, Goal D. The past year has been an unprecedented one, and some of the aims within the plan have been paused or have progressed at a slower pace than originally intended. Each commitment has been allocated a progress rating, and also an overall rating has also been provided for the goal itself. So for this goal, we've allocated a rating of 3, which is adequate. It's important to point out at this stage that these ratings relate to activity and progress against the commitments themselves and don't illustrate the significant activities undertaken during the past year to support the pandemic response. A few examples of information within the report. The My Mate service, which provides people with learning disabilities the opportunity to develop social and personal relationships and provides a space for problem solving and information sharing. The service overcame the lack of face-to-face contact during the last 12 months and moved their social events online. Over 4,800 people attended these events, which included a New Year's Eve celebration, concerts, and the marking of milestone birthdays. Also, the extensive work carried out to support the county's wonderful volunteers, including the development of the Our Monmouthshire Community Networking platform into Connect Monmouthshire, which is a Wales-wide platform used by various local authorities and volunteering organisations. So there will be more opportunity for collaboration, sharing of resources and improved effectiveness going forward. And finally, onto virtual fitness classes, virtual coffee mornings, and in some cases, virtual one-to-one sessions held by the Mon Life team to help keep our residents active and healthy. Now, ordinarily, the report would include performance information on a range of nationally set measures used by all the councils in Wales. This would identify how Monmouthshire County Council's performance benchmarks with other councils in Wales. However, this year, due to the impact of the pandemic, the information is limited, so it doesn't provide adequate detail to support the analysis of performance. We have, however, gathered this internally where it's available, and alongside our local performance measures, this is presented with additional information where the figures don't align with previous performance to provide a wider context and explanation. And finally, from me, a report of progress against all the 5 priority goals will be presented to Council in September, with a requirement for publication of the report by October, as per the Local Government Wales measure. So that's everything from me, Chair. I'll open it up to yourselves. Thank you very much indeed.
I thank you for that, Emma. Do I have any questions from members? Please come up on screen. I've got no hands showing at the moment. No? May I ask a question, Emma, then? I've got no hands showing. Reference to the connectivity with the residents who are vulnerable out there, and you were talking about having meetings online, etc. What's the position with the people who have difficulty in doing that, and there will be lots out there. You know, I mean, even this morning, it's taken me 1 hour to get connected up to this this meeting, so that there are frustrations with me, and I'm one of the younger generation, but the older generations must find it really difficult, and the support that we want to give them. How have we coped with that as a council then? How do we cope with somebody who can't connect up to, let's say, Teams or do them online virtual coffee mornings, etc.? Because it is so important to them. It'd probably be the only thing that they have in the week is talking with somebody they met probably months ago in a coffee morning in a village hall or whatever. How we cope? Who's run all that for us, or has it just been so difficult to get that to connect?
I think Julie's happy to take that question. If I could pass it over to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's be fine.
Thanks, Emma. I think what has been really impressive and interesting, Simon, I think your question would be a question that I would have had in the beginning, which is how are these people who predominantly are people with a learning disability and potentially physical disabilities as well, how are we going to ensure that they've got the skills and the ability to be able to hook up? And I think we've been overwhelmed and probably, you know, underestimate people, generally speaking. So actually that's not been an issue. So we've also had staff who've been able to get alongside people, be that, you know, at distance, etc., to really help support people to be able to access that technology, to have the right kit. I mean, some people do that on phones, some people do it on iPads. Not everybody's got a computer, but actually, I think they've managed incredibly well and had very high uptake. And I think it's been a unintended benefit that we probably didn't realise was going to be there. So I think in lots of ways, it's given people other skills. So as well as actually physically meeting, which is what they always used to do, there is now that ability to be able to virtually meet. And that's really, really helped. And like you, I was a bit sort of, gosh, how's this going to work? People have got around it and worked that out incredibly well. So, fair play.
Is there a percentage though of people who haven't? Do we know that, who've said, like, chucked it on the side and said, I ain't bothering with that anymore because it frustrates me? And I do know as you get older, the frustration and everything sets in, doesn't it? We all go, because we're all getting older and we all find, like, have we got the patience for it? And I think anybody who isn't well and who hasn't got that patience as well, they struggle. Do we have a database for that?
No, we haven't. I'm not aware, unless Eve's aware, of anybody who said that's not been an issue. And if it has been an issue, we've helped people get through it. But that hasn't been a feature at all. People have really engaged with this virtual technology, and it just hasn't presented as a barrier. Really, it's been an enabler, actually. A bit like you, Simon. I'm in that slightly older phase of my life, and we'll see in a bit whether or not I can share my screen. Because that could be the challenge today.
Yes, I know.
So, yeah, we're all challenged with these things.
Okay, well, that was my question. I just wanted to make sure we hadn't missed a lot out there. You ain't going to get everybody, I know, but they probably, like you say, they've probably embraced this even more now. They can go on eBay or on all these other sites to start buying things, whereas they even dreaded even going onto it probably 18 months ago, the frightening thing about it. Okay, that's great, wonderful. I've got Sheila.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It might be helpful to indicate how we raise our hands, because we're live streaming. We seem to have lost the facility on the taskbar, so just thought I'd mention that to you, Chairman.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It is there at the moment. It is there on the chat bar.
I haven't got it.
Okay, yeah, right, okay. So it's a raised hand in the chat bar. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I've got him there. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Sorry. I've just got a question or two regarding my mates. If you've got any plans at the moment that you can share with us about the future, whilst I know there's an awful lot of work being carried out just in the reports, and well done on that. But I just wondered if there's any future plans now that restrictions are being lifted you could share with us. And the other one is about the number of volunteers. I noticed that, obviously, understandably, the number of volunteers directly supporting the council has dropped, because every organisation has experienced that. But I do recognise a lot of people are still volunteering, and they've been well supported, haven't they, through the community team. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that. I mean, obviously there's been an increase in the number of people outside volunteering, not directly connected to the involved with the council, but obviously I think that's starting to pick up again now. I mean, the council were overwhelmed with people wanting to help initially when COVID started, and it's wonderful to feel a sense that in the communities of people supporting each other. We can't capture all of it. I know people do things privately, but I just wondered if you could touch on that a little bit about how that has grown. Thank you.
Eve, do you want to take the My Mates one, or I'll take My Mates for volunteering and we'll share it?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to start on the My Mates one. I think at the moment we're in that period of we're looking at what should we be doing next, and we're doing that by actually talking to people. And what we're finding is a lot of support actually for the newer ways of working. So we've talked a little bit about some of the stuff that's happened virtually, but we've also still done a lot of stuff actually. So lots of people have had one-to-one visits with people. They go out with people. Now, as restrictions are lifting, they've been meeting with friends and groups, etc. And what we're finding is that we've been a lot more person-centred over this last year. So we have quite a number of people and families saying, actually we like this way better, we'd like to keep it this way. So at the moment we're working through some of that rather than just saying let's go back to the way we were. We've learned a lot over the last year. So we're doing a lot of consultation with people at the moment, talking about what good would look like to them before we start to firm up what we'll be doing in the future.
Okay, Sheila, are you happy? Any more supplementaries on that one?
The
No,
volunteer.
that's fine. Thank you. I do recognise the amount of good work that's being carried out, and I just wondered what the next steps are going to be. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, and the volunteer sector as well, the question on the volunteer sector.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Sheila's pointed out, you know, it's been an amazing effort that people have put into this. And I think what has really been helpful from a social care and health perspective is the joining up across our world, social care, with community and partnerships team. And there's been a really strong coordination, really, there was a lot of good work going on in social care and health pre-pandemic. Members will be aware when we've come to council before where we've talked about some of the volunteer schemes that we've had, and we've augmented those, and a lot of those have been spread across the county. And so in lots of ways, we're in a good position when the pandemic hit to be able to build on that. And like you say, the numbers have gone up and down, and they will. But I think there's a really strong foundation that's in place. And I think the network from a social care and health, third sector and community and partnerships team has really bolstered that. And an example of that is we now have a social worker who is based in the community and partnerships team, and they have said that has added such depth to their vision, I suppose, and the ability to be able to act across that sector. So I think we've got a very strong infrastructure, it's well embedded, and I think it can hopefully, you know, manage those peaks and troughs that we're going through. But it'll always, I think, be part of what we do and how we develop as we go forward. So yeah, it's been a good example.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Okay, Sheila, yeah.
Yes, thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Okay, I do have Ruth next.
Thank you. And it seems to lose context a little bit of where we were going. Following on from Simon and saying about, because my ward is extremely rural, I haven't got a shop or anything, it's very rural, at least 12 miles across. And obviously it's very rural. We've got a lot of farms where, you know, you don't always have a good mobile signal in a lot of the areas. And my concern, as you were saying about older people, if they haven't got computers and so on. So it's good to hear that there hasn't been a problem with that. When I first came on the council 2004, we didn't even have a computer or anything then provided. And they used to have lessons for, you used to see locally computers for the terrified. And I could almost have fallen into that bracket myself. But it's surprising how, when you're pushed to it, how you do adapt, how you do manage. And I should think if there were any vulnerable people in the community, they would have been highlighted with a social worker or the doctor. And I think because of the connectivity that we've got in Monmouthshire, that I don't think, as Julie said, she was amazed by it all, and nobody has fallen through into a black hole or anything. So that's very reassuring, because we don't know how long we're going to be in this situation. And it could go on. And as you say, perhaps some people welcome this and they can see somebody on a screen and not feel quite so isolated. So it's surprising, even with the fantastic speed that they've got the vaccinations out, we never ever thought that that could be achieved. So, you know, it's surprising how we do adapt. And I think that's very reassuring and gives you some confidence. So I think, you know, we shouldn't be afraid of a lot of these things. And when you're pushed to it, it's surprising. You surprise yourself what you can actually do. And I think in some ways it might well be for the better. But I admit this morning I tried to get a doctor's appointment, and the one I want to see, I can't get one to the 24th of August. So I suppose there's going to be more pressure that way. But if it's an emergency, you can do. So anyway, I just think that we are embracing it and we are all moving forward, and thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. I do have Louise next. Louise Brown, Councillor Brown.
Yes, I was just saying, yes, thank you for the report. in terms of a read of it, I've looked through the first section, which is sort of general issues, and then I think there's a table at the end that does a summary with regard to sort of reablement and so forth. And there's one to do with reablement after 6 months, and it says somewhere there about the old target and what the percentage is. And I just wondered if you could comment on that, and just in very general terms, not specifically related to this report. You know, it's the same in relation to all council reports. It will be helpful if on percentages we got numbers, so we got an idea of the number of people involved, but also you know, to have, because as you may appreciate, we have quite a lot of reports to plough through, and it would be helpful just for reports in general that come to scrutiny, if we have like an executive one-page summary, you know, which would be very useful for us, you know, to point out the main points. I mean, this is not something in relation to your report, you know, it's the same across the board, and it's just a general point being made in terms of you know, to assist not only the county councillors but also the people who've kindly co-opted onto the committee. So you know, I don't want you to take that as any personal comment in relation to your report, which is fine in relation to the usual reports that we get for committee. It's just that you know, adding that point in general for scrutiny, it would be very helpful if reports that are written across the board for committees could do that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Louise.
And
Thank
the
you.
reablement point was the main question with regard to the report, if somebody could answer that one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Brown. With regards to the reablement performance indicator, I believe that's one of our national indicators. So it has been updated, which is something that we're requested to record for the benchmarking purposes, which we haven't done this year, like I said in the introduction, because the information hasn't necessarily been robust enough for all of the local authorities in Wales to share. So ordinarily you would have had that sort of comparison with other local authorities. But with regards to the change this year, it's one of the national measures that's been updated. So we've been requested to record it in that slightly different worded way, which we've included so that you've got the information, but it doesn't necessarily compare with the way that the measure was recorded last year. So the figures wouldn't necessarily lead from one onto the other.
Yeah, because it seems as if it's gone down slightly, and I don't know why. I mean, obviously, you know, getting, I presume it means getting people back to a point of independent living. Is that right, or at least with some sort of package to support them? Is that what it means?
Yes. So I think with the reablement process, it exactly like you say, it aims to help people to become independent following a period of needing support, so that they can then go on to live without requiring that support any longer, live independently. And it's just a measure of how many of those individuals who have been through the reablement system have actually managed to go on to independence following the support they've received.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Tony Trollhurst.
Hello, Julie. We've passed across many times over the years, so here we are again. You know, I represent disabled people generally, and not all disabled people are on the radar of social services or indeed of leisure, and yet both social services and leisure provide facilities which would enhance the quality of life of disabled people in many ways. How has Monmouthshire gone out of its way to try and capture these people who are not on the radar of social services, but have obviously experienced isolation and issues such as that during the past year or so?
Tony, is that a question to myself?
Well, I'm not quite sure of the hierarchy here, but
there's no hierarchy. It was just that Emma's corporate plan. Well, it's not hers, so she's presenting the corporate plan. But I mean, we can Emma, I'm happy to answer, or Eve will be happy to answer that question if that's okay. I think it's a really important point that you make, because not everybody is on our radar, and nor do they need to be. I mean, one of our core principles is, you know, and one of our key purpose is to help people live their own lives. So whatever we can do to support people to help them live their own lives is what we're about. And I think over the years, what we've tried to do is really at a grassroots level, really get to understand communities and understand the people that are in those communities, provide support where needed, but not necessarily create that dependence through service. So I think and Eve can answer as well, but we're not actively seeking people. That's not what we do. You know, if people move towards us, that's great. We will help in a proportionate way that is needed. If people are signposted towards us or signposted towards other services like you described, as in leisure services, if leisure had concerns and wanted to share, they would come to us. But essentially, we want to create a brand, if you like, around social services, that we are here to offer support and help, but we're not necessarily here to always provide service and support to interfere in people's lives. So I think that's what we're trying to do. So I think you raise a very important point, and one that's been raised for many years. I don't know if there's anything you'd want to add to that, Eve.
No, I think only like you were talking about before, Julie, that, you know, the work we've been doing with community and partnerships, etc., has given us a lot more ability to have sort of eyes and ears out there in the community, particularly over the last 18 months. And it has made it easier for people to come in and be signposted appropriately to where they need to get any support, etc. And I think that will be valuable going forward. And I think that the work that we've done around things like, or that the community team have done around things like street monitors, etc., has sort of broadened our ability to sort of be aware of if anyone does need help, but to be able to support them into a more appropriate direction than coming to social services, as it were. That's the only thing I would add.
Okay, happy we answer there, Tony? Tony?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. Roger?
Thank you, Chair. We, as members here on this committee, are really, I think our major task is to help you officers and support you officers in doing your job. And you've provided this report that goes out to the Cabinet and goes out to the public. It's what they read, it's what we read. What I really would like to be able to help you even more is, separate to the report, what your underlying problems are, what your underlying strengths are, and how we, if you have got problems, we need to know about them as a committee, and how we can help you overcome those problems. If it's putting recommendations to the Cabinet, etc., or whatever we need to do. We know there's never enough money. It's as simple as that. But if you are being held back critically and are concerned about telling us, please don't be concerned about telling us, because if we don't know, we can't help you. That's the way I've always looked at scrutiny, not to criticise, but to actually bolster up what we can do, because if we're helping you, we're helping the people out there that pay the money to put you in your jobs and in fact in our job. So just let us know on the side to the reports that you give us. That's the bog standard stuff. We want to know what's hurting you and what we can do to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Anybody'd like to answer that one, Julie or Emma or Eve?
Don't worry, Roger. There'll be plenty of pain coming when I share my report in a minute. Well, we won't be holding back. So be ready.
Oh, so we'll get that one in the next report then, is it? Okay. Are you happy with that answer, Roger? Just prepare yourself.
Absolutely. We're all on the same side, we hope. So keep up the good work.
Right, thank you, Roger. Right, I don't have any more questions, Emma, for yourself or Julie or Eve. No more raised hands? No? Okay, thank you for that, Emma. Just one quick question for you now. This is the 5-year plan. I know that's been messed up in the last 18 months, and your plan for 22 onwards, so that's not very far away, is it? That'll be another 5-year plan, so you'll be making that now, probably after the annual report. You'll be looking at what direction you're going to enter into a new era here on the basis of is we'll have somebody new in the hot seat from Julie, and then you will have hopefully we should come out of the pandemic and it should be watered down to something else, hopefully. So your plan's going to be totally different now to how we had this 5-year one. How will you judge that? Because that's going to be really difficult. Going back to what we spoke about now with the connectivity, we're really all surprised at how that has happened. Will that have a new, let's say, direction of forward thinking? Because you're going to have to keep the old plan and work off the old plan, because that's how you use your percentages. How much influence will the Welsh government have on this as well? You know what I mean? Because we all have to keep the same plans, don't we? Because we can't veer off. So going back to Ruth's point there about direction of rural communities, etc., our plan will be totally different to, let's say, an urban city plan, won't it? So what direction do we have on benchmarking that with, let's say, direction from the Welsh government? Because what influence do they have us on building these plans as well, or is it solely ours only?
I mean, there are a lot of factors for us to consider. So things like the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, the Local Government and Elections Act also, which has just come out, along with a lot more specialist social care and health, etc. So there are a lot of factors for us to consider in terms of the external influence. There's a massive amount of learning, like you've just alluded to, from the past 18 months. And we started a piece of work on this recently, sort of very much like the corporate plan annual update that I've just presented a section of to you now. We're in the process of putting together sort of an annual review of the last year in terms of the pandemic, and all of the impacts it's had, the learning and the changes that we've seen. So all of that will begin to contribute to the review of the corporate plan that we'll be doing as well. So it's a huge amalgamation of a lot of information. Obviously we would be doing the corporate plan review anyway at this stage, or in the next couple of months, because it's due for renewal. But certainly the impact of the last 18 months will make it a far bigger reconsideration of what we're looking at. I mean, of course, there are some fundamental things that will go forward, that will continue to be a focus. That won't change. It's the basis of what we do as a local authority. But yeah, like you say, the influences and impacts will certainly be a different kettle of fish than they would have ordinarily been. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it was just it's going to be so difficult, isn't it, to just write the next plan and how you're going to score it as well, because I mean it's going to be totally different, and who knows what's going to happen. Yeah, and we never anticipated where we'd be now 2 years ago, let's say. I mean, life's totally changed. I.e., my father can use a laptop.
Yes, indeed.
And he's buying off certain sites as well. Really disappointed. Okay, that's great. Yeah, no problem. Right. So the recommendations is we receive the report today. We look at the report, we scrutinise it, and against the goals and the corporate plan, and that's it, members. Are we all happy with that? Yes. Okay, that's great. No problem. Right. We'll move on to the next report. Julie, hang on. Just a second. I've got Louise. Louise.
Yeah, Chair, could we, the sort of as a general comment, later on when all the reports have finished, make a general scrutiny comment about the, how to possibly to Cabinet and Democratic Services, how it would be helpful if all reports to scrutiny and provided an executive summary. But I don't think it should be connected to this report because it's just a general comment, you know, and you know, I just think that that would be perhaps, you know, slotted in at the end somewhere, if that's all right with you, Chair.
Yeah. I mean, you as committee are entitled to ask for that. Yeah, and I think it's a very valid point. Yeah, we'll do that at the end then. Okay. Right, Julie, let's move on.
Okay.
Right,
yeah. So I'll just start by a little bit of an introduction in terms of what I'm bringing today is a presentation of some information that will go into the final report, and I'm going to take you through the sort of approach that we're taking this year. Members who've been on the committee for the last 2 years and also been in council will have seen that we are using, or we use a Microsoft product called Sway, which allows us to be able to put quite a lot of interactive information into the report. So report feels like the wrong word almost, because it's a report on how we've performed, all the legislative frameworks that we have to adhere to are captured within that report, but it goes much broader and much wider. Because the timing is such that we pull this together, generally speaking, if we're coming into council in September, most of the work will be finished in about August time. I think it's fair to say that this year it's been a bit more difficult because the pressures in the service delivery arms at the moment mean that people are under a lot of pressure to, one, deliver the service and give information into this annual director's report. So hence why I've just put together a few slides from the adults only perspective, because obviously the children's side is also reflected, but I didn't bring that in today into the Adult Select Committee. And hopefully it'll just give members of the committee a snapshot of some of what is going to go into that report. So it isn't the full report, if that's okay. So I'm just going to try and share my screen and hope that it didn't look like that when I tried that this morning. Let's go. Right, that's not working at the moment. I think. Okay, is anything coming up?
Yes. Yeah,
oh.
We got that. Yep, I've got that. Everybody got that? Can you see that, everyone?
If I go to the beginning, are we there?
Yeah. I got
Right.
thumbs up. Most of us are there. If you're not there, just give me a quick chat bar and I'll.
I'm assuming that if you can see that, and a few others have said, I'm sure we're okay. Okay, so I'll kick off. So, like I said, it's just an overview of this year's report, a snapshot of some excerpts of the data, of which there is lots of data in the annual director's report. And I will just talk a little bit about some of the stories that will be included. They're not included today. Some of the evaluations and inspections, and also particularly to talk about some of the pressure points in delivery and some of the issues that we have currently. Just in terms of how the report in the format of a Sway will be presented to council, it's going to fall under these headings. So this year, we're going to look at the direction of travel for both adults and children's, and really try to capture a little bit about where we've been, but also where we're going. And I'm doing this really as a sort of bit of a position statement, as I'm leaving and somebody new will be coming in. I think it'll be useful to just capture all of that information. There's a little bit of a graphic at the top there that says behind every front door a different story, and I think that really captures what our lives are like in social services, and obviously we'll be enlarging on that through the stories that will be told as part of the report. The second section that we're going to be having quite a lot of information in is a section called Growing Practice. It's all about practice. Basically, if we don't get things right with people behind their front doors or in front of their front doors, then we might as well go home. So the way in which we practice, the models of delivery are key to a successful social care and health department. So we're going to be talking about what's our evidence that we're saying we are doing that and how are we doing. There's going to be a section on partnership and collaboration, which is key to our delivery, and we've already talked a little bit about that today in terms of our collaboration with our partnerships and communities team. That goes wider into the third sector. That, even from my perspective, is about our collaboration with citizens and the way that we practice day by day with people. A section on our workforce. We don't have a workforce. We don't have a service delivery arm. There'll be quite a bit on our workforce. And then data. There will be a lot of data. I will talk a little bit about the new framework that we've been given, which Emma has mentioned as well. A little bit on data, sorry, not data, finance, governance and planning, and then a summary and next step section. So those are going to be the areas that will be covered off in the full report. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the new performance measurement framework. So members who've been around a while will see that we bring in periodically information about our performance. We have performance indicators, and these are the tables that you'll all be familiar with, where the percentages go up and down, and we give explanation as to why that might be, that there's a percentage increase or a percentage decrease. What's changed this year, and it's been in train for a number of years, and I think when the Social Services and Wellbeing Act came into being, which, you know, it's a great piece of legislation, the framework that measured our performance was the old framework. So it's taken a number of years to get to this new framework. I think it's fair to say that we are underwhelmed by this framework because it hasn't gone far enough in terms of measuring outcomes. It's very heavy on data metrics, which is fine up to a point. And what we've got this year is lots of metric information, which doesn't have a baseline, if you like. It's starting new. But also what we haven't got is the outcome qualitative measures, because they're not in place yet. So what I will do, and what Eve and Jen will help me do, is put some of that information in the main report through stories, through outcomes, and through the impact that it makes for individuals, which is where certainly I believe it counts. What the framework does do, it sets out, and I'll go on to the next slide actually, what we're governed, if you like, through the performance measurement framework now are these areas. So in black, you'll see front door assessment and care, care and support plans, preventative services, provision of services, and safeguarding adults. So these are the main performance areas that Welsh Government is looking at to measure us against others and against ourselves. And then in green, these are the sort of principal, I think we put, what do they call them? The quality standard core principle themes, if you like. So if we're looking at metrics from the front door, it's about to what extent is that preventative and to what extent is that in partnership. Picking another one, provision of services, it's about people, partnership, integration and well-being. So if we're providing services, how are those services, you know, if you like, catering for people? How do we deliver in partnership and integration and well-being? And similarly, safeguarding adults, you know, are we actually making a difference around well-being? So just wanted to give you a bit of a sense of that new performance measurement framework, because in the main report there will be a lot of data. I've just picked out one area under front door, and as you can see from the previous screen, I don't want to make you dizzy, but from the previous screen there are 5 areas that we are measured against, and in children there are 7. So again, it makes for the report being quite big, but we do have to report on this data. So under front door, and on the left hand side you'll see they've all got codes, and this is the information metrically that we are collecting information on. So you can see from there the number of contacts for adults received by social services in this year, which is from April 2020 to April 2021. So there's a number, 5,787. And then the number of people who were then provided with advice or assistance, which is one of our front door functions. So again, you can see the figure there. And then the total number of contacts moving further down, just to social services by adults or care professional contacting us on behalf of others, sees how many exact. So you can see that actually there's a run through, and similarly at the bottom, how many adult carers received social services assistance or advice, and again 88 carers were recorded as that. Now, one of the difficulties we've got is the benchmark that we might have used year on year, we can't use this year because it relates to a different set of performance indicators. So it's almost as if we're starting at year zero. That said, in the main report, we have made some reflections around our community care questionnaire that we have continued to deliver for, it must be 20 years now. So that gives us a nice constant measure that we can put against some of the data that we'll be bringing for the first time. Stories, feedback and insights, as well as the metric information. As I said earlier, we do like to make sure that we have a good range of stories and feedback from people. So from our complaints and compliments section, we always include a selection of, you know, the good, the bad and the ugly from a direct feedback point of view, and from a complaint and compliment point of view. From an inspection point of view, if we've had any activity from our Care Inspectorate Wales colleagues, which we have in this last 12 months, we will be including quotes, and there will be a link to the full report in there as well. This year, CIW, Care Inspectorate Wales, carried out in February this year what they called a quality assurance visit, and it was very much to look at how had we been managing to deliver services and support through COVID, and how had we managed to, you know, keep things going. I have to say that report was excellent, and a link to that report will be in the main report, and I will be referencing some of the quotes. But we were very, very pleased with the outcome of that. Just to say that inspectors were virtually conducted their business over 5 days. We did challenge that a little bit because at the time, I don't know if people remember, back in February, we were in really difficult times and it didn't feel particularly pleasant to be having an inspection, but fair play to the staff, and everybody rallied round, did their best, showed, you know, what we had done, and actually the result was excellent. Just put this picture up here. This is and there will be a film that will accompany this in the main report. This is a service that got off the ground within this COVID period, and the person on the left there is the manager of the service called Lucy, and the lady has given her permission for the photo to be here. And this is somebody who we support at night. A community night service has been set up, which has proved to be brilliant, and actually so brilliant that we are looking to, it's set up in one part of the county in the north, and now we're looking to extend this across the whole county, and it's been a really good success story in terms of how to innovate in times of challenge and actually continue to support people to be able to stay at home, which has been very important during these times. So I'm not going to labour on these too much, but it was really, out of those 5 areas of metrics, I've just picked 3 at random, just to show you the sorts of information that will be in the main report, both in a table, in a link, and also excerpts of that in the main report, just demonstrate how we are doing against those performance indicators. So front door is one of those indicators, and I've already referenced that in the example earlier. But interestingly, just to note here that the majority of contacts received were from health, so, you know, over half, or nearly half of those. And obviously, integration continues to be our key way of working, and I'll ask you to talk a bit about that in a little bit. The other thing that happened during COVID, as if it wasn't enough to just try and keep going, we had to provide weekly information about our ability to act, and also be able to provide information about how much activity was going on. So this charts right back to May last year and up to April this year, the contacts that were received weekly, and then the average, which, you know, gives a really good visual impression, I think, of how we've sort of gone up and down. And if you think now, that's only charted up until the 4th of April. I can guarantee that that is going northwards over these last few months in between times, and it may be that we're able to put an as-is position in the main report in September. Safeguarding adults, again, it's one of those key areas that we have to report upon. And again, I would just want to mention to members that there's been a big change in safeguarding with new national procedures coming in and then these new metrics. But again, it just gives you some of that detail of what's happened in the last 12 months. I'm not going to go through every single line if that's okay. And again, just a visual representation for people who just like to be able to see, you know, where we've gone up and down and what's happening. Again, just a visual portrayal of that. Similarly with assessment of care and support, I haven't put all 5 up, I've just got 3. So again, you know, during the time frame, how many assessments were completed, how many people had care and support plans. Again, we've got a satisfaction comment in here, which relates back to our community care assessment. And then again, how many carers have been assessed during that time, and how many carers have had a care and support plan. So it gives a good indication of the sort of volume and the types of activity that happen. And like I said, that's only part of the story. This was what I was referring to earlier. Again, each week we had to provide, I think we're still having to do it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had to provide capability, our capability to be able to continue to act during this time, during the last 12 months. So again, back from May last year to April this year, using a red, amber, green system. So green being, yeah, we're okay, amber beginning to not feel okay, and red is not on this particular chart. But on this chart, it's about the capability to be able to place adults in an appropriate residential care setting. I've just explained that, which is the red, amber, green assessment of our ability. Just to explain why that's in here. Again, a visual representation over a 12-month period of the requests to social care for services. So the light green line at the bottom is residential care, which, you know, has in some ways, you know, if you look between, I suppose, August last year and probably January, very low. If we think back, that's when, you know, people were staying at home. There wouldn't be an appetite potentially for people to be wanting to go into care homes at that time. And we're beginning to see a different pattern emerge now. Care homes are beginning to, they're not beginning, they are accepting people, and we are beginning to see a bit of an upturn in that. So again, as the graph tails off, I suspect that we're going to see that going up in the next, if there was another quarter's worth of data in here. Reablement, we're going to talk a little bit about reablement in a little bit, because I'm going to ask Eve to talk about the care service pressures that we have. So I'll just leave that there for now. Again, going over that COVID period, looking at our ability to have a workforce and their ability to operate. So again, if you look at the red, which was December up until about February time, really high, real difficulties in actually being able to operate. And we're in amber at the moment. I suspect that might be heading towards red again if we had another quarter's worth of information. As I mentioned earlier, our ability to provide reablement has been under significant pressure, and the charts and the colours explain some of that. So again, here we are, our ability to provide reablement has been seriously compromised. Like I said, we can go into some detail around the reasons why that is in a little bit when I finish. Care at home, again, that says amber, but I suspect that's again with another quarter's worth of information that potentially will be heading towards red, and again we'll explain why in a minute. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I've come to the end of that. I hope, I mean, it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of a little bit of data and a little bit of analysis. I think it's fair to say that when the actual full SWAY report comes in, it's quite a hefty document. I'm going to try and make it a little slimmer this year if we can, because it has to capture such a lot of breadth and depth across children's and adult services, and also for but me personally, I want to be able to showcase the brilliant work that goes on. So there's always a bit of not a competition, but it's quite hard because we've got a lot of stuff that we want to get in there to show the so what. I've just given you here's the analysis of some of the data, but the so what bit is the most important bit certainly as far as I'm concerned. What does it mean to people who are receiving our support? So I'll stop there and we can pick up some of those conversations around pressures in the system and also take any comments and questions that people have.
Okay, thanks Julie. Eve, is there anything you'd just like to add to that, or are you happy to just take it forward now?
Yeah, no, I'm quite happy to. I'm sure there'll be questions following that, so I'm quite happy to pick up some of those around some of the challenges that we are facing at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Right, I've got Chris Bowie. Chris?
I just want to say that was really interesting. Thank you very much. I wondered, has the Monmouthshire County Council Social Services been severely affected by the pandemic that has been happening over the last few weeks? Because I know the organisation that I represent here has been severely affected, and I just wondered, you know, if you had any anecdotes around that for us, Julie or Eve.
Eve, you may have. I haven't got any because it hasn't necessarily touched me yet. Eve, is there any evidence for us getting pinged?
Yeah, I think that it's been more of a collateral problem, sort of in our own bits of the business. It has, you know, we've had some of it, but it hasn't been significant. I think where we have had some challenging times is where some of our commissioned providers have been affected by that, and then we've experienced, albeit in the short term, we've experienced some challenges around handing back or packages not being able to be fulfilled by the independent sector. So we've had to either support, point them in the direction of other services who might be able to pick up that, like agencies, or, as often been the case, we've had to try and incorporate those runs into our own.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Chris, your hand's gone up again. I don't know whether that's a mistake or not. Okay, just make sure you take your hands down, everyone. Right, I've got Louise Brown. Louise?
Yes, thank you very much for the report. I think the question I've got is obviously COVID has impacted the, you know, sort of the bed blocking issue because of the fact that, you know, obviously care homes are wanting to be more careful. And I just wondered what was happening with regard to, you know, for example, if somebody needed to leave hospital and go into a care home, whether that was opening up more now, because obviously people have tended to be doubly vaccinated, and you know, do they have to before leaving hospital, do they have to take a lateral flow test or a COVID test before they actually go to the care home? And you know, I just wondered what the situation was with regard to you know, monitoring of care homes in terms of you know, the tests that can be done now, and you know, if what impact that's had on bed space and so forth. And you know, obviously in the early days there were issues of people sort of going into hospital for other issues and possibly finding that they then ended up you know, contracting COVID actually in the hospital itself, or you know, obviously in any environment. And so I just wondered what the answer was on that, and how we were progressing forward in a careful way, and what was still happening with regard to protective equipment, you know, such as masks and so forth, just to know where we are at this particular stage, and you know, if there's any impediment with regard to contacts and so forth. It's just really an understanding of how it's working practically now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Brown. I think I'll start and then Eve can no doubt she'll have more depth than me. But I think one thing I just want to say is that the care home sector have been absolutely magnificent during this time. Absolutely amazing. What they've had to deal with has been, you know, at times terribly scary and terribly difficult, and they have been absolutely incredible. I think our connection with our care home sector has always been excellent anyway. So we've got a very, very good working relationships, and that's worked very well. The bit I would just want to say is that, you know, obviously during the early months, you know, everything was locked down, everything was shut in a sense. As things have begun to open up, so we're seeing care homes beginning to open up as well, unless they are an incident. So, you know, anecdotally, there's been some comments that, you know, nothing's happening. Actually, the numbers are going up, and homes are ringing us and asking us if we've got people, etc. That has really, really shifted. Eve, do you want to just say about the other things as well, hospital transfers, etc.?
Yeah, I do think there's an increase in confidence in the sector now, and I think also, I think that, you know, understandably there was a reluctance when people were uncertain about, you know, visiting, you know, isolating when you went into a home was obviously an issue. Going back to your earlier comments, Louise, that the process is I would say very rigorous now around hospital discharges. Everybody has to have a PCR within 48 hours of being planned to a move to a residential setting before, and then they have to isolate when they still have to isolate now when they first transfer over. So the process is much more efficient and effective now than it was in the earlier days, when, you know, there was lots more issues in the early days about testing, availability of tests, etc., and things like that. So I think that has improved. Julie's right. I think that this last year we've really consolidated some of our relationships with our providers. We've had weekly meetings with them, talking them through, you know, the guidance has been challenging at times, and it's been changes very quickly at certain times through the pandemic. So, you know, we've given a lot of support around that, a lot of support and direction around the hardship fund. So I think generally the feedback from the providers has been really positive. We are seeing an increase in a slight increase in people now going into placement. And I think I'm not sure if I've answered everything there, Louise, but with regards to the PPE, I have to say it myself, we've done a sterling job. Nobody has been left without. We've done regular deliveries out to all the sector, both the care home sector, the residential sector, also all our commissioned providers. If anybody's ever running short, we've stepped in and supported them. So that's worked. I mean, it really works sort of seamlessly, and we deliver a huge amount of stuff around the patch on a very regular basis. Is there anything I've missed off there?
Yeah, I was just wondering about sort of, it's probably an extra question, Chair, if that's all right. I was just wondering about the question of, you know, care at home, and whether or not the care providers there were still using masks and aprons and that sort of thing, and if that was continuing, because obviously, you know, the messages about masks are somewhat mixed at the moment, and I just wanted to know how that was operating in sort of the care homes and in the care at home type of setting as well, because you know, obviously there is a little more freedom in that particular area. Okay, thank you.
There's absolutely no change whatsoever, Councillor Brown. Everybody's still wearing the same PPE as they were doing throughout. I think the addition is that everybody also now does twice weekly lateral flow device testing on weekly PCR, and the residential settings have whole home testing on a regular basis. We have weekly meetings around particularly the residential sector to identify if there have been any incidences, what the tracking and tracing needs to do, if there needs to be any support around infection control, etc. So there's been absolutely no change whatsoever.
Okay, thanks for that, Eve.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got no more hands raised there, reference to asking questions. Can I just ask a question myself then? And I'll put my hand up. There you go. It's going back to safeguarding adults and the report, Julie. I think it's the breakdown of the numbers there in the green. So it says during 2021, there were 680 safeguarding reports were made concerning 463 adults. So we surmise the other ones were young people, children, yes, to make it up to 4680, yeah.
Not necessarily, no.
Well, that is my question. I just need to get an understanding, because this is something which will happen in council as well. So just in the report, I just want to get an understanding there. So that's not necessary. The main source of reports during this period were from providers of 255. Providers in brackets are who? Is that just people anonymous ringing up, or?
No. So whether that's independent sector, residential care homes, it could be the Lanarth Court, which is one of our very main contributors to adult safeguarding referrals. Providers is a term for anybody who delivers a service.
Okay, I just understanding an independent hospital. Just give us an example.
That's Lanarth Court.
Okay, so when I add that total up, it doesn't add up to whatever. Now, the next paragraph down as well, I just want an understanding of the figures there. That was all, because you will be asked this, and I mean the public report. So it's the most common categories of abuse recorded were physical abuse 260 and neglect 258. So if I add them up, that gives me 518. Safeguarding inquiries should normally be completed within 7 working days during the year 2021. 51.5% of inquiries were carried out within this time scale. So the 518, give me a breakdown of where that comes with the paragraph above. I just wanted to some clarity. That was all.
I think it's a really useful point, and I knew it would come up. So I think one of the things, particularly the 51%, which obviously we will be qualifying and quantifying more in the main report. But the figures, they're not meant to total back up. So, for example, if we have so many contacts or referrals or duty to reports, as we call them, into our system, some of those get screened out. So you'll have a top figure. Now, it may be useful that we actually make sure that that sum does add up, so that we take out the screen out one, so that it makes a bit more sense, and perhaps detail underneath that a little bit more about, I think, like you're saying, actually, what does that mean and why doesn't it add up to, and it may be that it isn't a metric that adds up. Going on to the 50, so I'll make the amendment to that, definitely, in terms of the full report. Like I said, this is the data as is at the moment. It's sort of raw data, if you like. The 51% is, it's one of those metrics that we have to satisfy, if you like, Welsh Government on. It's a target that was set. Now, we think it's a very inappropriate target. That's by the by. Because what happens is, dependent on how your system is set up. So, for example, here in Monmouthshire, we have a central safeguarding team, but each of our teams that run social work services also are dealing with safeguarding. And sometimes the pulling together of that data to give a proper representative figure isn't quite recorded properly. So there's some work going on at the moment to say, so for example, I think one of the things that I can say that is those people who have been referred in, but it says we haven't managed to follow up the inquiries within 7 days. That doesn't mean to say that they haven't been followed up at all. The teams will have it. They will have that safety plan in place. This is about a metric reporting against a data point. Now, that's quite complicated to explain, isn't it? But we will find a way of explaining it and also determining where we are performing well and where we're not. But I would want to assure members that that will not be about people not being safe. That definitely isn't the case. But I will definitely make sure that we quantify and explain and elaborate each of those data points so that we minimise those questions in a sense.
Okay, that's wonderful. And my last question then is all to do with staffing, really, more than anything. I know prior to pandemic, going back the year before there in the annual report, I think the questions may have been asked there, is recruitment in all this as well? Because, you know, I mean, it's been really difficult, and I do understand sickness, I do understand being locked down as well, and with staff and the pinging nowadays with staff. But overall, we need to operate. What about recruitment? I mean, I'm sure that's going to be really important within the annual report. Have we retained recruitment? Have we actually increased, or are we looking to increase with recruitment, apprenticeships, social workers, etc., etc.? I think that's so important. I don't see anything in here. Will we see anything? A little paragraph in the main report?
You'll see a whole section on workforce. I haven't put it in there yet because it's not complete.
Okay.
There will be a whole section on workforce which picks up both how many staff we employ, the issues that we may or may have had around, and I'm going to ask Eve to talk about the recruitment that we've been doing, certainly in adult services over the last 12 months, but also it will have some of the issues that we are facing around this sector. So it'll be a very comprehensive chapter, if you like, in the main report, which will have all of that detail in there, and some of the narrative around some of the difficulties. But Eve, I don't know if you want to just pick up the whole what we've had to do around recruitment, and also I think it's worthwhile picking up the current issues. Yes,
over the last year, from a recruitment point of view, the systems and processes that we've developed have been really useful, and you know, in honesty, I don't know how we would have coped without them. We've developed a new app. This is particularly for care at home. We've increased our headcount in care at home significantly to manage some of the problems that are in the independent sector, but also to manage some of the demand. So we've over recruited into our own care at home teams, and we've actually been recruiting literally 24/7. However, despite all that, we are still currently 1,100 hours a week that we can't fulfill. So there are 1,100 hours out to what we would call brokerage, so people waiting for package support or packages of care, both in reablement and in care at home, that's in the community, and waiting to be discharged from hospital. So 1,100 is the highest we've ever got to, and much of that is around the fact that, as it shows in some of those graphs, the numbers have increased, but the complexity following the pandemic of the impact that lockdown has had on people has increased significantly. Hence why we've been declaring red in reablement since early on in the year, and how we're declaring red from a care at home perspective. So we're recruiting as fast as we can, but it almost feels like we're on the back foot all the time. So the demand that's coming in just grows and grows week on week, from a complexity and a numbers point of view, particularly for reablement and care at home. We have had temporary money through various funding streams from Welsh Government. You know, there's winter pressure money, there's ICF money, there's transformation money, but our ability to recruit to those temporary posts has been very compromised. You know, partly I think that's a shortage of certain professions out in the market, but also people don't want to understand we move to a temporary post at the moment. They want that sort of security. So we haven't, in actual fact, we've at times had to hand some of the money back because we haven't been able to utilise it effectively. So it is very challenging out there. I think that the pandemic year, while we were in the main of it, was very difficult for lots of reasons, but I would have to say that this is harder now. This is harder. You know, staff had a very challenging year, and then I think we sort of thought February to March time, okay, the worst is over, the worst had just begun. So it is very difficult out there, and we're doing our absolute best.
Would you say, Eve, then perhaps a new formula for recruitment needs to be looked at as reference to how we recruit them? Because not just us will be looking to do this, a lot of other authorities, local as well. I'm just talking about our neighbours, etc. And I mean, if somebody wants to step into a portfolio there, which we're advertising, other authorities will be doing that. So, and until we start to strike the balance there, it's going to be, what's the word? I won't use that word, but it's going to be a fight for all. Who's going to get that person? I.e., I mean, and it is like that. I mean, and I think every sector within the whole country is looking for recruitment. And it's at the end of the day, it's what package you offer for that recruitment for that place, whatever level they are. But I think if I remember rightly, it's only a couple of years ago there, we were looking at building a team of social workers, etc., and having young social workers, apprentices coming along and trying to build up, but actually making sure that they retain their place within Monmouthshire as well and want to stay with us. The only way you'll do that nowadays is having a good package for them. Is that perhaps we have to rewrite that paragraph with the cabinet member and probably build a new package? Is that a recommendation we'd have to do? Is because at the end of the day, it all boils down to pound, shilling and pence, doesn't it? And the love for the job as well, of course. Like it does boil down to what package they're going to have there. And if we're not offering the best package, they will not come, will they?
No, I think our retention from a professional point of view is quite good, really, on the whole. You know, I think the majority of staff, you know, we don't get a huge amount of movement in our social work roles and our occupational therapy roles specifically. I think one of the problems is, and you're right, that this isn't just a Monmouthshire issue. This is an issue across, you know, nationally, and having conversations with you know, my peers in other boroughs, they're experiencing some of the similar pressures. I think we have it sometimes a little bit, not harder, but a bit different because of our rurality, and I think some of that adds to some of that, and our demography. So I think from a professional point of view, I think there are national shortages for certain professions, particularly occupational therapy. I think the temporary posts are an issue. Our permanent posts, we often get interest in our permanent posts, which is very positive and encouraging. And I think the care at home, there's a lot of stuff that's going on both locally and regionally about how we improve that recruitment and retention, and lots of work going on, you know, for example, with colleague Gwent and lots of other organisations about how we improve some of the problems that we have around care at home. And I do think one of the problems that we also have is we're often looking wider afield for staff working in Monmouthshire, you know, so we often end up with staff coming from, you know, Blaenau Gwent, Torfaen, where it's cheaper for people to live than it is in Monmouthshire. So there is a bit of a challenge around growing our own, you know, so I think that's something that we need to look at going forward. And we're also looking at all sorts of different options. We're exploring things like, you know, micro carers, we're looking at place space, we're looking at how we can improve the direct payment offer. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at to try and address the problem, but also there's a bit of a chicken and egg around that, as in it's hard to focus on how do we promote and be proactive in our models and how we deliver when we're actually right in the thick of the front line at the moment.
Okay, thanks for that, Eve. And my last question is on the adult safeguarding report, just below what the first thing I was discussing on the graph there, on the green graph. What is the blip there in January 21? What's that blip there? No, the next that one there, yeah, the blip in January. What's that then? Is that
Yeah, funny enough, Simon, am I on mute or not?
No, you're not. No,
I'm not. No, sorry. I was just, I didn't realise I was still sharing my screen. Good point, because it also occurs on another one. I need to understand what's happened there. We've gone from December, fallen off a cliff, and then we've climbed back up the cliff. I'm just trying to work out whether that's, don't know, Christmas? No, I don't know. Okay. I'll certainly find out.
Okay. Just address that or have a look at it then when we put the report through. Right, I don't have any more hands. Sorry. Okay, I don't have any more hands showing there, so we'll take that as everybody's satisfied with the report. Let me just go back to the recommendations reference to this. Just 1 second. So what we're saying, Julie, is the final draft will be ready for September to go.
Yeah, it will be circulated I think it's 2 weeks in advance of the 23rd, so members will have a chance to look at the full document.
And that will go to Cabinet or to full
council.
Full
The statutory director's report, the requirement is it goes to full council. Yeah.
Okay. And we as members from the select committee, Louise, you were just discussing there, perhaps we should put some recommendations to Cabinet, reference to or to the head of directorate today now, probably an A4 summary sheet. Is that right, Louise? Briefing sheet, Louise?
Yes, I think so. I think it's something that we were discussing in general about reports coming to scrutiny, that it would be helpful if we did have an A4 summary sheet. I mean, you call it an executive summary, obviously, if it goes to, if it's a report to Cabinet. I mean, we're not the executive, we're the backbenchers, but it's really the same idea that we get sort of like an abstract of the key points, and it's just a general reporting issue, and it goes across the board. It's not just this scrutiny committee, but it's in every council report that we get. It would be very useful. So the suggestion is that for this to be, because the scrutiny refer things, as I say, this is for adults and CYP and other scrutiny matters, that this goes to Cabinet and then is discussed at Democratic Services Committee. And this is what I think that most members were in favour of, but it doesn't, I think it shouldn't necessarily be in relation to any of the reports that we've had today. It's sort of a separate general recommendation that it would help both county councillors, it would help even Cabinet, but also co-optees, so that, and I think it's also very useful, Chair, in terms of focusing the mind of the person who's writing the report on the key points that they want to make, and again, then it makes it easier to both scrutinise and discuss reports. But I wouldn't want it as a recommendation in relation to any of the reports we've heard today. It's just really a general point that we're making as an overview of reports that have come to scrutiny across the board. Okay, thank you.
We'll have a discussion about that then later on. So you got that, ladies. It's not nothing to do with today's report, but it's something that we as members may be looking for in the future for all reports which come to us, especially on annual reports, etc. Okay, I've got no more questions, no more answer, nothing for you there, ladies. Right, thank you very much both, and enjoy the rest of your day. And let's hope the sun shines. Keep it shining. I know. Thank you both, and we'll move on. Thank you, committee. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, let's get on to the agenda, guys. You can stay with us if you like, no problem. Hi, everyone. Are you still with us? Yep. We're still there? Yep. Okay. Right, just need to get my agenda back up here. Just a second. Oh, come on. There you go. Right. Right, we've got the forward work programme. Right, we just took the 2 reports. We're still waiting for the Gypsies and Travellers Need Assessment with Ian, Mark and Stephen. Any signs of that for September, October? Hazel?
I haven't heard, Chair, but I'll chase that as an action from this meeting.
Okay, so that'd be a nice one to put on a meeting for us after the summer break, yeah?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, okay. I've got nothing else. Anybody got anything else? Anything else coming up? I haven't seen anything, and we'll have a look at the forward work program. So everybody's happy with that then. So hopefully we can get that report to us as quickly as possible. Cabinet of Council forward work program, the planner. I know Cabinet are looking at budget scrutiny must be month, Q2 or however we do it. So that may be the one which comes to us next as reference to our next meeting as well. I think that's on Wednesday for Cabinet, if memory serves me. Just going through that planner then, has anybody picked anything up there which we just need to make sure that we put on our work programme? I'm going to 21 there, final accounts, finals which must come to council then, yeah. Let's have a look here now, and 22. We've got nothing on there. Right, well then we come back into budget. So that's the only thing we've got, Hazel, is it? Is the travellers and the gypsy plan there? Yeah.
Yes, Chair. It's quite normal to come to the end of the work programme each summer because we set the new work programme in the autumn. So it does look scant, but it's the same for the other selects. We start planning from here forward for the next council year.
Okay, that's great. Confirm the minutes of our previous meeting. Everybody happy with them minutes? Yep, I got Maureen as a and I've got Malcolm. Yep, so and Sheila's there. Yep, okay. I just had something come up there about declarations of interest. Can we also update declarations of interest, Louise? What do you mean by that update? What?
Yeah, I think in going through the agenda in the pre-meeting, there was somebody who mentioned, I think it was Chris who mentioned she wanted to put forward a declaration of interest, and I think when we had the discussion with regard to the chief officer, we missed that first bit of the report of the agenda, so I just wanted to try and update it so it was included within the minutes.
Yeah, Chris, you never spoke in that on that last report, did you? There's very little which was said on the last report. Chris referenced at the start of the report, so reference to declarations of interest. Hazel referenced the legal side of that. I just sent Chris an email just to make sure that what the declaration was. Is that correct? Yes.
Chair, if Chris would like to declare an interest, she can. I'll leave that to Chris to advise us.
Okay, all right.
Can I declare an interest now, or is it too late?
No, it doesn't actually matter.
I just wanted to point out that Mine Monmouthshire, who I am the chief exec of, we have funding from Monmouthshire County Council Social Services for a mental health information, advice and assistance service, and I just wanted to make it clear that we received funding from this funding stream that we were scrutinising the report of. I just wanted that to be above board.
Yeah, I think so. That there ain't no issue, Chris, on that as reference to what was said and the decisions. There's no critical decisions made today, so there ain't no issues as far as I'm concerned there. But you will have an A4 sheet probably emailed to you, Hazelwood, with Arrow Democrat Services. Just fill that in or print it up and fill it in and just get it back to us, making sure that is registered as a declaration. Okay, everybody happy with that? I think that's it. I don't think we've got anything else. Hazel, anything else you'd like to say?
No, thanks, Chair. I think we're done.
Is Rob with us today? I haven't seen Rob's name up there. Mine, I haven't had a chance to.
Yes, Robert's with us.
Okay, Rob, can I see both of you before you shoot off, just for 5 minutes after the meeting's closed? Just have a quick chat how we've gone on and everything else, yeah?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
All right, no problem. Right. Members, thank you for your time this morning, and go and enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully see you soon. I think I got this cabinet on tomorrow. We've got cabinet tomorrow, and then our council meeting in September. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, everybody. Amen.
Bye-bye.